All right, it's your boy Spank Dog, aka Puffinstein at YouTube. Like, comment, share, subscribe. You already know. Much love to everybody out there. So I just found out that Charlie Kirk was unalive, and that's sad. Very sad. I've been doing politics lately for a second, and I'm not super well versed in like who are politicians at the moment, their names. But as far as like ethics and stuff, I feel like I'm beyond, on point when it comes to being ethical. And not saying that ethics is involved with Charlie's death, because I haven't even spoken on what happened yet. This is not something that you just jump on, YouTube live and talk about. You know what I'm saying? Something that I would want to be well versed in, and know what I'm talking about if I decide to talk about it. So that's why I'll go slow. As far as like if he was a Trump ally, a big time Trump ally, I've read a little bit already, and they say, yeah, he was a big Trump ally. Now, I could speak as to what Trump has been doing, and he's been messing up. So, I don't associate, like, even though he's his, let's say, teammate, I still wouldn't condemn anybody over what another person does. People are individuals. Even if somebody, it has the same views as another person, that don't mean it should never come to this. It should always be able to be handled with words. That's why they have sit downs, talks, meetings are the most important thing, but people got to be level headed. You can't think just because you had a meeting, that everything's all good now, because we handled it with words and not with violence, but it has to be handled with the words. It can't be where, after the talks, things that are really horrible are still taking place, and you think that because you sat down and talked that things are gravy now. Drop a comment if you come in here, speak your mind. If you end up in here, say something. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's sad. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. You know what I'm saying? Where I'm from, you don't speak ill about the dead. There's probably a lot of people out there that aren't hurt by his being unalive, but like I said, I don't speak ill of the dead, and rest in peace to Charlie Kirk. And as far as like if I believed in the same things he believed in, I doubt that. If we were on the same page, I really highly doubt that. But that don't mean that I'm happy that happened. Beyond a matter of fact, the opposite of that, the polar opposite of that. When I was young and ignorant, I would have said crazy stuff, but I'm not young and ignorant. So now if I say stuff like that, I got no excuse. There is definitely something going on in America that has to stop. They call us the Americans now. We have a leader that is so foul that the rest of the world now, they used to look at us like people that were good people. Like we were symbolic, we were iconic of freedom. And it's to the point where the guy that they call our leader, because he's no leader of mine, that they call our leader things like the modern day, and I mean, he's done really bad things. I don't know if we could take it there yet. You know what I'm saying? Because that guy you're talking about was horrific. And horrific, they need to make a new word up for how bad that guy was. You know what I'm saying? And But we got a person who's in charge, because he, like I said, he's no leader of mine, but he's in charge right now. Nobody could deny that. He's making things happen in America I've never seen happen in my life. Things that are not cool, beyond not cool. Again, polar opposite of cool. You look up not cool in the dictionary, you're going to see our so-called leader's face, you know. And this is me being very politically correct. You know, I'm a wild person. I'm a wild child. You know what I'm saying? I'm no child now, but I'm just saying I come from a place where, you know, you be wild. That's it. You know what I'm saying? But I've changed a lot. You know, there's no reason for you to be a 49-year-old man and be talking reckless, especially after you've seen what your mouth can do, how much trouble your mouth. Man, listen, we got into some crazy stuff, and I was 14 years old. I offered a smile to somebody because I seen him arguing with his lady, and the guns came out just off of that. I was 14. I got a taste of how it gets. You know, that was probably the first time I seen like stuff that 14-year-olds shouldn't see. You know, when all things were all said and done, we were lucky they didn't let it go, and they had hit my man with the butt of the gun. He was leaking all over the place. They knocked out my other man, you know, and we had a thingy on us, but we didn't have nothing. We ain't have the things you need to utilize it. You get what I'm saying? But people, we had decided, because yeah, even though I was only 14 years old, I was part of the group like that. And we or they decided, whatever you want to call my people, my group, they decided to bring it anyway, even though they didn't have the things you need to make it work. You know what I'm saying? But yo, man, all this stuff going on, man, they gotta stop. You know, and like I said, rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. I don't know to what degree he's involved in what's going on with, you know, they call them MAGA Republicans. You know, and to be honest with you, this just being fair, it's to the point where they're almost giving you a different group. It's like they're taking you out of the Republican space. You know, soon you'll just be MAGA. It won't be MAGA Republicans because your ideology is not, it doesn't fit. You know what I'm saying? Even in Republican, when you look up Republican and Democrat, the definitions don't say what's going on with the MAGA Republicans. You know, when did it say it's okay to deport a judge because he's on his way to citizenship? Or I'm not even sure if you could be a judge if you don't have your citizenship, but let's say it's another job, another career. You know, this man got a career, he's on his way to citizenship, and you know, and like I said, I don't know 100% if they're deporting people, but what's going on in California and Los Angeles, it's obvious that it's not kosher. You know, you got politicians standing in solidarity, and I stand with them. You know, you see people with accents. You know, it's like, man, a person's a politician, a person's a state worker. You know, it used to be where if you hurt a bus driver, it's a felony, but yet you could beat him up and send him to a country without anything, any of his belongings, take his whole life from him. People have died because they've been deported. They've died during deportation. You know, it's to the point where people that are good gotta stand up, and that means whether you're Republican, whether you're Democrat, it doesn't matter. None of that matters. That Democrat, Republican, it doesn't matter, bro. It's about where your heart is. You know, I'm not trying to plug myself off of Charlie Kirk's death, but if you look at my music, I talk a little reckless, but not like a lot of people do. I talk about being a good person. Listen to the verses. I got a song called Where Your Heart At, and it literally talks about how, like, it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is where your heart is, if it's in the right place. But truly, though, I mean, I've seen the blonde lady that speaks, Caroline, I believe her name is, that speaks for Trump. I see her get up there and blatantly lie. You know, in my opinion, you know, allegedly. You got to get up here and be careful. Unless you don't care, there's people out there that don't care. And there's certain people in New York, whether it's how their mindset is or where they come from that's made them hard as nails. They'll say they won't be politically correct like me. They'll say what's on their mind 100%, no filter, and be like, if you don't like it, SMD. That's real. That's real too. And that's not me trying to be disgusting. You want to see disgusting. Look at and like I said, this is all allegedly. Everything is allegedly. I'm not certain. It's contemplation and speculation. But there's pictures going around and letters going around, allegedly that were written to Epstein. Now, there's people out there that's saying it's not real. Do I believe that? No, of course not. I think he did that. You've seen him. How hard is it to believe that a man who said grab her by the crotch or whatever drew those cartoons and wrote those things? You know what I'm saying? Like it ain't too hard. It ain't hard to tell. You know what I'm saying? I seen a politician, a big time politician, get on Trump today, talking about let's not act like this is fake now. You know what I'm saying? But I say allegedly just because, you never know. Like that guy in the baseball game, they thought he had did it until he was on camera, and then you knew he didn't do it. Well, like I said, at one point I wasn't certain if when Trump, when they tried to hurt Trump that day, the sniper, and they hit him in the ear, I almost didn't even know if that was real or it was set up. But after a certain amount of time, I think they really, now especially after what happened to Charlie Kirk, I really think they try to do that to him. And even though I don't think that's the way, they do. Words, bro. Whatever happened to Martin Luther King, y'all people are disrespectful. Whatever happened to nonviolence, and I'm not talking about Black America. I'm not even talking about working class white America or working class people, middle class people. I'm talking about rich conservative MAGA Republicans. Have you forgotten that that's real stuff? That's real good-hearted stuff. I had a dream. I'm gonna leave it at that, man. I don't do the lives no more. You could check out my edited work. I've become really good or whatever. But I came up here really to speak real quick, and I was looking at my cards. This is therapy for me. You know what I'm saying? That's Bryce Harper. This is good stuff. Sports. This takes your mind off of all this nonsense. So I'm over here messing with my cards, and I find out Charlie Kirk got killed. And I already spoke on how I felt about it. To whoever's in the room, shout out, salute. I'm out of here. Check out the stream. Check out the music. It speaks to all this. It's your boy Spank Dog. Much love to all of y'all, man. Peace. I'm out of here.